Fruitful Minutes. This is my sister, Dr. Sarah Hung. She is a naturopathic doctor.
Hi, everybody. So nice to see everybody today. Thank you so much for having me on, and thanks for hosting me, Michelle.
Yeah, no problem. So my name is Michelle Wong. I'm a part of Fruitful Yield's digital marketing team. And together, both Sarah and I are fourth generation members of the Now and Fruitful Yield family. And today we're going to be talking about immunity.
Yep, it's a very important topic right now. And so when we talk about the immunity and supporting immunity, there are a couple of different things that we are talking about. One is the innate immune system. This is kind of considered a first line of defense when it comes to immunity. It consists of mucous membranes, which is tissues that line our sinus passages, respiratory tract, and digestive tract. We're also talking about the adaptive immune response, which is a specific response that involves the production of antibodies. And then we're just talking about whole body health and supporting overall vitality and energy.
Right. So if you haven't gathered it yet, today we're going to be talking about immune support vitamins and immune support minerals. So just all these things that support all of the different immune systems that Dr. Hung just mentioned. So she was also going to mention the book that inspired this for her.
So this book was off of information by Dr. Alex Vasquez. It was published in 2014 and it was updated in 2020. It's a book about nutrients, as Michelle mentioned, and their effect on viruses. So if that's a topic of interest to you guys, you can definitely check it out. So we'll be talking about this today, vitamins and minerals in support of the immune system. However, in the upcoming weeks, we're going to have additional topics. We're going to be talking about foods that support the immune system, herbs that support the immune system, as well as lifestyle practices for the immune system. So please stay tuned.
Yeah. So I think the 6 biggest immune support vitamins that we're going to cover today, that's going to be vitamin A, vitamin C, vitamin D, the minerals selenium, zinc, and then also N-acetylcysteine. So we're going to jump into those real quick. We know that you have a lot of questions. So first of all, Dr. Hung, tell me a little bit about vitamin A. Tell us everything that we need to know.
Okay, so just some basics about vitamin A. It supports whole body health. So especially at a cellular level, vitamin A is a very important nutrient for healthy skin and mucous membranes, which, as we had mentioned earlier, is very important when it comes to the innate immune system or first line defense. It's very important for vision health, and it supports both the innate and adaptive immunity. Interestingly, vitamin A deficiency has also been linked to measles by the World Health Organization. Vitamin A is also a fat-soluble vitamin, meaning that it's dissolved in fat and it's able to be stored within our cells and not easily excreted. Therefore, if you intend to take higher dosages for a long period of time, it's always a good idea to speak with your doctor about that.
Yeah, so on that note, we're going to always take all of these vitamins that we're mentioning today as directed on the bottle. So make sure that you're reading that really carefully. And then if you want a more individualized plan for your personal needs, just talk to your doctor and they'll set up a dosing plan for you.
All right, so going back to where vitamin A comes from, vitamin A comes from diet or supplementation. And actually, when it comes to diet, there are 2 types of vitamin A that we can get it from. One is plant sources, which tends to be more beta carotene. Beta carotene is then later converted into our bodies to the active form of vitamin A, which is the retinoic acid or retinol form of vitamin A. This active form of vitamin A is also found in animal sources. For example, liver, egg yolks, and cod liver oil, grass-fed butter. Those are all excellent sources of vitamin A, but tend to be missing in most of our diets.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not every day that you're eating like a whole cod.
Exactly, or eating liver pate. We typically don't eat that very often. And then it's important to note that some people have a genetic alteration that make it difficult for them to convert beta carotene into vitamin A. So that can be important if you are experiencing any deficiencies in your immune system or skin issues. That can be something to keep in mind.
I'm always looking for ways to improve my skin health, so.
Same here. And then it's also important, some plant sources of beta carotene include carrots, sweet potatoes, bell peppers, and dark leafy greens.
Definitely. So those are all really great vegetables that we can grow in our gardens. Like right now, both Dr. Hoong and myself have been growing some really awesome Swiss chard, some dark leafy greens, some kale. So if you want to hop on this trend that's been going on, especially since the hit of coronavirus, it's been a really good way to just relieve some stress and get some really healthy vitamin A full plants out there and veggies to eat.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely very good to know that there's sustainable ways to get our nutrients, and balcony gardens are a great way to do that.
Mm-hmm. All right, so now we're going to talk about the most famous immune support vitamin, and that is the antioxidant vitamin C.
Yeah. So vitamin C, as Michelle mentioned, is an antioxidant or a free radical scavenger. Why this is important when it comes to immune support. Um, Oftentimes when we get sick and our body is defending against infections, free radicals are produced by cells that are supporting us. However, if these free radicals become too widespread, they can produce unpleasant symptoms that come with being ill. And so antioxidants can kind of help. And vitamin C helps support this process and supports a healthy immune response. Vitamin C is also a very important nutrient for collagen production, believe it or not.
And that's been a huge trend for a lot of people right now. And then also in our stores, people have been running in and getting collagen. So if you want to support collagen in the body, vitamin C is a really good tool for that.
Yeah, and collagen is very important for skin health, bone health, joint health. So it's great to know that that's a cofactor or supportive of that process. Vitamin C supports innate immunity, particularly, and also supports a healthy inflammatory response. Inflammation, when we get sick, is actually a necessary process. It helps bring white blood cells to the area of infection. However, if inflammation becomes too widespread, it can cause further harm to our body. And so vitamin C can help regulate this process.
Yeah, and I don't think people realize how prevalent, especially chronic inflammation, can be for a lot of people. So that's something to keep in mind if one wants to support healthy levels of inflammation.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, so I know that obviously the food sources include oranges, lemons, other citrus fruits like grapefruit. Where else can we find vitamin C, doctor?
Yeah, so citrus fruits, just like you mentioned. And then also we can find vitamin C in bell peppers and dark leafy greens, which, as we mentioned before, is also a great source of beta carotene. Broccoli, kiwi, and I believe we have rose hips and acerola in the store, which are plants that are very high in vitamin C as well. And then lastly, it's just good to know that vitamin C is a water soluble vitamin. So that means it's dissolved in water in our bloodstream, it's easily excreted, and vitamin C therefore tends to have very low toxicity. However, higher doses of vitamin C can result in loose stools. So something just to keep in mind.
Yeah, thanks for the warning. That's really important. All right, so next up we have vitamin D. This is something that I've been on. I've been low with my vitamin D levels lots of different times and I've been tested. So that's something to keep in mind. It's actually prevalent for a lot of people in areas that have long winters. So what do you think about vitamin D?
Yeah, absolutely. So as Michelle mentioned, deficiency is very common, especially up here in the Northern Hemisphere, where half of the year we're not getting a lot of sun. And then also a lot of us work indoors and don't spend a lot of time outdoors. So it is very common to see vitamin D deficiency. And that's something to keep in mind is vitamin D is very important for a healthy immune system. It supports healthy mucous membranes, which are important as a first line barrier, as well as healthy skin, bone health. Vitamin D actually helps increase the absorption of calcium, which is very important. Vitamin D also helps with a healthy inflammatory response, just like vitamin C. And vitamin D actually comes in a variety of sources.
All right, that's really good to know. So, yeah, vitamin D is actually known for being the sunshine vitamin, and that's because when we go outside, that helps us have a healthy level of vitamin D.
When our skin is exposed to the sun, a precursor to vitamin D is actually produced. Later, this precursor gets converted into the active form in our liver and kidneys. And that active form is vitamin D3 or cholecalciferol. This is the type of vitamin D that we typically have in our stores in supplemental form. And this is good to know because there's not very many food sources of D3. Usually this is restricted just to fatty fish, cod liver oil, and eggs. Vitamin D2 is a less active form of vitamin D, and in fortified foods such as milk, cheeses, and certain types of mushrooms are actually sources of vitamin D2 or ergocalciferol.
So that's like a little bit more common, you're saying,
Mm-hmm.
is natural sources of D2 as opposed to D3. Next, we do have selenium. I actually take this one. It's a mineral, but what does it do? I actually am not sure.
Yeah, well, as you mentioned, Michelle, selenium is a mineral, making it kind of different than the nutrients we've discussed up until now. And selenium actually, when it comes to immune health, it has actually been shown to support production and movement of lymphatic fluids, which is very important for the immune system. It helps remove debris and toxins when we get sick. Selenium is also a potent free radical scavenger. We talked about the importance of that with vitamin C and beta carotene. And when it comes to viruses, it's been interesting that research has linked selenium deficiency to certain viral diseases. One example was a long time ago, there was a virus that affected heart tissue. This was called Collagen disease. And this tended to occur in places where soil was completely devoid of selenium.
All right, so that's really good to note. So it's not exactly proof of causation, but that strong correlation is kind of evidence that if one wants to support their immune system, selenium is something to consider and talk to your doctor about.
And some good news on top of that is it's pretty easy to get sufficient selenium just from food intake. As a matter of fact, 2 or 3 Brazil nuts a day can get you to a recommended daily value. And then oysters, beef, and eggs are also excellent sources of selenium.
So do you think that if I eat enough hamburgers today, I'll be able to get my selenium intake?
I suppose depending on if it's organic, grass-fed, things of that nature.
So that would make it a little bit higher nutrient or mineral level in the patty.
Well, it's really interesting because when it comes to grass-fed meats, when it comes to the fatty acid content, it actually will change depending on if it's grass-fed or if it's conventionally produced. And the amount of omega-3s will be higher in the grass-fed beef. I'm not sure about selenium, but that's a great question. Would be interesting to look some research about that.
Definitely. So something for us to visit later. Thank you for educating me for that. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I didn't know that minerals could be free radical scavengers. I know that you were mentioning that to me earlier. Can you jump into that for everybody else?
About minerals being free radical scavengers?
Yeah, because I think you were telling me once that selenium is actually a free radical scavenger. Is that true?
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more when we get into N-acetylcysteine, because that's actually a very important precursor to one of the most potent free radical scavengers in the body. And selenium as a mineral has also been found to be a very potent free radical scavenger.
All right, good to know. Thank you. All right, so next we have zinc. So with zinc, we often see this mineral combined with elderberry. So you might see a lot of elderberry zinc supplements at Fruitful Yield. So tell us, what are the benefits specifically of zinc?
Well, zinc, and it's funny that you mentioned that elderberry and zinc are combined a lot. Both zinc and elderberry have been shown to be supportive of the innate and adaptive immune system, so they do go well together. And zinc has the added benefit of supporting a healthy inflammatory response, which we talked about the importance of that earlier.
Yeah.
And then interestingly, zinc is also a very important nutrient for skin health and, believe it or not, hormonal health even, for healthy levels of testosterone, estrogen, progesterone. So that's why sometimes you'll see a lot of people recommending eating lots of pumpkin seeds for hormone health.
Mm-hmm.
So some food sources for zinc typically include, interestingly, beef and eggs, oysters, just like selenium, as we mentioned earlier, chicken, nuts, seeds. And then zinc is, if you're going to take zinc long term, it's just important to be cautious about that, because zinc and copper have a very important relationship. They share the same cell receptor. And sometimes if zinc is taken for a long period without taking copper, it can lead to copper deficiency. So that's something kind of to just be aware of, possibly talk to your doctor about, or look for a supplement that has a balance of both zinc and copper. And then zinc, it can be taken, it's usually best to take it short term if you're going to be exposed to a lot of sick individuals. It can be very excellent to take before you're exposed or before you experience symptoms, and also when you are experiencing symptoms.
Yeah, so I might take it if I know I'm just going to, not under these circumstances, but under normal circumstances, if it's like flu season, I might take it if I was about to hop on an airplane, something like that. Maybe if I'm a teacher and I'm going to be around a lot of students. So
Uh-huh.
that's something good to think about. And then I know that you said that copper and zinc have the same cell receptor. What is a cell receptor?
Well, cell receptor is actually a protein that exists on the surface of cells. And this protein allows for nutrients and hormones, things of that nature, to attach to that protein and then kind of affect or change the function of that cell.
Okay, so if like zinc was there, it might block like copper
Mhm.
getting attached to it. Okay, that's cool.
Uh-huh.
Thank you for explaining that. All right, so lastly, we're moving on to the most unique, whatever, what is it, a nutrient or a mineral, whatever the heck it is, we're moving on to N-acetylcysteine. I have never heard of this nutrient before.
So N-acetylcysteine is actually different than all the other nutrients we've talked about before. It's actually an amino acid, and it's been used actually in hospital settings, so it makes it very unique.
Definitely. So, what exactly is an amino acid per se?
Well, an amino acid is a building block for protein. And so when we digest protein, it's typically what protein is broken down into. And there's actually 20 different amino acids that come from protein that it can be broken down into, 8 of which are considered essential. And all these amino acids have a variety of different functions in our body. Some can be important for neurological support, some for digestive support, and some for the immune system. As a matter of fact, proteins and amino acids are important for making immunoglobulins, in other words, antibodies that help fight infections.
Yeah, so definitely good to support the immunity that way. And then I also had a question. If this is found in natural protein, am I going to be able to get my amino acids if I'm taking something like a protein powder and I'm a vegetarian?
Oh, well, that's a great question. If you're a vegetarian and you're doing a plant-based protein, it's always important to make sure that that protein has a complete amino acid profile. Certain foods that have that, and so ensuring that's combined with other foods that have those amino acids that might be missing would be very important if you're a vegetarian.
Yeah, that's a great note. Thank you for that. So something like a plant protein complex would be something that I might look for.
Uh-huh, and I know we have quite a few really good ones in the store.
Definitely. I think you were also going to talk about inflammation in regards to this.
Oh yeah. So N-acetylcysteine, like many of our other nutrients, has been very helpful with a healthy inflammatory response, ensuring that inflammation does not become too widespread. If our immune response has too much of an inflammatory response when we're sick, this can lead to actually some very dangerous conditions. So it's always important that there's not too much widespread inflammation when we become sick. N-acetylcysteine has also been shown to support healthy detoxification. In particular, it supports phase 2 of our liver detoxification, and that helps take toxic substances and makes them less toxic and excreted from the body. And finally, N-acetylcysteine has been shown to be a free radical scavenger, just like many of our other nutrients. And as we were mentioning earlier, N-acetylcysteine is actually a precursor to glutathione, which is another amino acid that is actually one of the most potent free radical scavengers in the entire body. And then lastly, N-acetylcysteine has been used actually in hospitals. As we were mentioning, when it comes to detoxification, it is actually used intravenously at times when there are overdosages from certain medications. So that's something that's very interesting as well.
Yeah, definitely. So, say if I overdosed on one of those medications, the hospital might give me N-acetylcysteine as like an IV.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Tylenol is one of the Tylenol poisoning of the liver is one of those medications that's commonly addressed in hospitals. So that's very interesting. Um, and then lastly, there's actually a study coming up in Hong Kong, the University of China in Hong Kong, in which N-acetylcysteine is going to be studied for its effects on influenza-acquired pneumonia in combination with medication. So I'm very excited about this personally. You guys can check it out on PubMed, and it should be really fascinating to see the results of this study.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you, Dr. Hung. That's about it for the nutrients. So, as we close up, are there any vitamins that mainstream hospitals have actually been using for immune support?
Well, from what I understand, vitamin C has been used intravenously alongside traditional treatments and other medications in hospitals in both New York and Wuhan, China. So I believe in Wuhan, China, there was actually a study published on this, once again, that can be looked up on PubMed. And then zinc has been used experimentally in a hospital in Indiana.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So it's really nice to see things like vitamins and nutrients being recognized for their immune support abilities in addition to what hospitals are normally up to. So thanks for that. So in closing, that is our first chapter to the immune support series. There's a lot more where that came from. We're going to be doing a lot with Dr. Hoong right here, so we're so excited to have her. So be sure to subscribe to our Fruitful Yield YouTube channel for more content like this. There's a lot more members of the Fruitful Yield team doing Fruitful Minutes, so be sure to check in on that. There will be a lot more videos with Dr. Hoong, as I mentioned. We're going to jump more in depth into immune support, so be sure to stay tuned. Have a good day, everyone.